Imagine stepping into the serene expanse of a national park, where the air is crisp and the world feels untouched. But what if, beneath the towering trees and tranquil waters, there's a darker story, one that whispers of vanishings, mysteries, and the unexplainable? For decades, people have disappeared in these very woods, leaving behind more questions than answers. What's lurking out there? Could it be something supernatural? Or is the truth far stranger than we dare imagine? Controversial? Absolutely. Some scoff at the idea of cryptids like Bigfoot or Dogman being real. Others raise an eyebrow at theories involving portals or UFOs. But then there are the facts, cold, hard cases where seasoned hikers like Bart Schleyer vanish without a trace, or where children like Dennis Martin disappear within earshot of their parents. The question isn't just what happened, but how can we explain it? When logic fails, the imagination runs wild, and the woods hold secrets that may never be revealed. You're about to embark on a journey through some of the most chilling mysteries ever documented, stories of strange silences, eerie patterns, and unexpected endings. But it's not just about fear, it's about awareness. Could knowing these tales save your life one day? Stick around to uncover what the wilderness isn't telling us. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, one thing is certain: these stories will make you think twice before your next hike. Are you ready to explore what lies beyond the trailhead? Let's dive into the unknown, where every answer breeds more questions, and the truth is as elusive as the wind through the trees. Just remember, what you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's real, and it's waiting for you to notice. There's something eerily captivating about the vast expanse of North America's national parks. But beyond the picturesque views and wildlife sightings lies a chilling undercurrent of mystery. Thousands of people, like those David Paulides explores in his Missing 411 series, have simply vanished. Picture this: you're trekking through Yosemite, the sun filtering through the trees, and then, snap, someone in your group is gone without a sound. It's as if the forest swallowed them whole, leaving only unanswered questions. These aren't just tales spun to scare campers, they're meticulously documented cases. Paulides' investigations dive deep into these disappearances, and what he's unearthed is enough to make even the most skeptical hiker second-guess their weekend plans. He's uncovered patterns that suggest something, or someone, is hunting in these wilderness areas. Sure, national parks like Yellowstone or Jasper are meant to be sanctuaries of peace, but they also seem to harbor an unsettling truth. From Dennis Martin to Stephanie Stewart, the names tied to these cases are chilling reminders that not all who wander are found. What makes these cases stand out is their sheer strangeness. Imagine a seasoned outdoorsman like Bart Schleyer, who knew the wilderness better than most, vanishing without leaving a single solid clue. Or Christopher Tompkins, who disappeared mid-step during a workday in the forest. It's not just the absences that are baffling, but the circumstances surrounding them. In some instances, search dogs refuse to track scents, as though the trail evaporated into thin air. And when remains are found, they're often in places previously searched, a twist that raises more questions than it answers. This isn't just about bad weather or tragic accidents. These stories defy logic. How does someone disappear in broad daylight with no witnesses, no sound, and no trace? Skeptics might point to disorientation or animal attacks, but the details often don't add up. Instead, they hint at something lurking just beyond our understanding. Could it be cryptids like Bigfoot or Dogman? Maybe supernatural entities tied to the land itself? Or even something stranger, portals, ghosts, or whispers of the occult? Whatever the cause, it's clear these woods hold secrets deeper than any canyon. And just when you think you've wrapped your head around it, another layer emerges. The disappearances often share uncanny similarities: sudden changes in weather during search efforts, missing shoes, or even the eerie phenomenon of silence that seems to descend before someone vanishes. It's enough to send a shiver down your spine the next time you step into the great outdoors. But this is just the beginning. The real intrigue lies in the patterns connecting these cases, patterns that challenge everything we thought we knew about wilderness safety. When you think about missing persons, you might imagine random, isolated incidents. But David Paulides has revealed something far more unsettling. These disappearances form clusters, and some of the most prominent are near places like Yosemite, Yellowstone, and the Great Lakes. It's as if these regions carry an invisible magnet for the unexplained. A map of these clusters paints a picture that's hard to ignore. These aren't haphazard dots but concentrated zones of mystery. Coincidence? Maybe. But after a while, the patterns feel too deliberate to brush off. Consider Yosemite, a hotspot for both tourists and the unexplained. From the chilling case of Charles McCullough, whose remains were found in puzzling conditions, to Eric Lewis, whose trail vanished halfway up a climb, the stories defy easy answers. And then there's the Great Lakes region with its own set of enigmas. The sheer volume of cases here is staggering. Why do so many vanish without a trace in areas that should be teeming with visitors? These clusters hint at something systemic, something beyond the usual risks of wilderness exploration. One of the strangest commonalities? The proximity of water. Many of these cases involve lakes, rivers, or waterfalls, almost as if water is a conduit for whatever force is at play. Trenny Gibson, for example, disappeared near a body of water during a school trip, leaving no trail behind. Is it the allure of the water itself, or is it hiding something? Add to that the peculiar weather shifts that often follow these vanishings. Sudden storms or dense fog rolling in as if summoned. Nature seems to conspire against those left searching. These patterns don't just end with geography. The timing of these disappearances often aligns with peak visitation seasons, meaning they occur when the parks are bustling with activity. And yet, the missing are rarely spotted by others, vanishing as if they were plucked from reality itself. It's this blend of statistical anomaly and bizarre circumstance that keeps investigators like Pollard scratching their heads. The idea that these aren't random events but part of a broader, chilling puzzle is hard to shake. As you dive deeper into the details, one thing becomes clear. There's a hidden order to these vanishings, and it's not one we fully understand. Could it be tied to ley lines, portals, or even supernatural forces? While skeptics might suggest these patterns are mere artifacts of data clustering, the consistency across decades and landscapes suggests otherwise. But don't get too comfortable. The next layer of this mystery lies in the rules Pollard uses to filter these cases. And trust me, that only adds to the intrigue. David Pollard isn't just chasing campfire tales. His investigation into missing persons is built on strict criteria that separate the eerie from the explainable. Animal attacks? Cross those off. Suicides or urban disappearances? Not his focus. He zeroes in on the cases that defy conventional logic, where no trace of the person, or a clear explanation, can be found. By eliminating mundane scenarios, Pollard sharpens the spotlight on incidents that seem to teeter on the edge of reality itself. Take Dennis Martin, the young boy who disappeared during a family outing in the Great Smoky Mountains. This wasn't a case of a child wandering too far. He vanished in mere moments while playing hide and seek, an activity that's supposed to be innocent, not the start of a lifelong mystery. And then there's Bart Schleyer, whose deep knowledge of the outdoors should have kept him safe. His disappearance left only tantalizing fragments of evidence, not enough to close the case but more than enough to fuel questions. These aren't isolated events, they're selected because they don't fit the mold. Pollard's method is almost scientific. He looks for cases where search and rescue efforts fail despite extensive resources and where evidence is contradictory or non-existent. One unsettling trend is the lack of reliable canine tracking. In numerous cases, search dogs refuse to follow the scent or lose it abruptly, as though the person stepped into thin air. This isn't just unusual, it's downright spooky. What natural explanation could account for such a consistent anomaly across cases? Another critical filter is the location itself. The cases often occur in remote, rugged terrains where people are less likely to stumble upon clues accidentally. Even seasoned hikers and hunters like Charles McCullough aren't immune. His remains were discovered years later in a spot so remote it baffled experts as to how he could have reached it on his own. Pollard focuses on these head-scratchers, where the terrain or circumstances actively fight back against logical answers. These investigative filters don't just weed out the noise, they amplify the anomalies, turning an already bizarre story into an unsolvable puzzle. The more you dig, the more questions arise. Why do these cases often involve people vanishing without cries for help or signs of struggle? It's as if an unseen force is at work, selecting its targets with precision. But as strange as the filters make these cases, the individual stories are even more perplexing. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Unexplainable cases are where the missing 411 phenomenon truly shines, or rather chills. These aren't stories of carelessness or bad luck. They're events that read like the opening of a paranormal thriller. Take Dennis Martin, for instance, a bright-eyed boy on a simple camping trip. One moment he's playing hide and seek, the next he's gone, leaving only a haunting silence. Nearby campers even reported hearing a blood-curdling scream, but the search party found nothing. How does a child vanish so completely in a matter of seconds? Then there's Eric Lewis, an experienced climber whose disappearance is equally baffling. While ascending Mount Rainier, his footprints simply stopped. No slide marks, no struggle, just an abrupt end to the trail. It's as if the mountain itself swallowed him whole. And if you think these are isolated incidents, think again. Charles McCullers' remains were found years later, his bones scattered in a way that defied natural explanations. His boots were intact, his jeans neatly unbuttoned, but his body was gone. Try making sense of that without your imagination running wild. Some of the most spine-tingling cases involve strange behavior leading up to the disappearance. Bart Schleyer, a skilled outdoorsman, set out for a solo trip into the wilderness and was never seen again. Some of the most spine-tingling cases involve strange behavior leading up to the disappearance. Bart Schleyer, a skilled outdoorsman, set out for a solo trip into the wilderness and was never seen again. Meanwhile, Stephanie Stewart, a fire lookout, vanished from her post in Alberta. Her cabin was untouched, her belongings left as if she'd just gone for a short walk. What could lure these seasoned experts into oblivion? Even when remains are discovered, the mysteries only deepen. Christopher Tompkins disappeared during a workday, his co-workers just feet away. All they found was his boot tangled in a barbed wire fence, with no sign of where he went next. Todd Geib's body surfaced in a lake 3 weeks after he went missing, fully clothed and in a location repeatedly searched before. It's almost as if these people are taken and then, in some cases, returned in ways that defy logic. These cases force you to consider the unthinkable. Could cryptids like Bigfoot or Dogman be more than folklore? Are portals or interdimensional rifts at play? Theories abound: aliens, ghosts, witchcraft, but no single explanation ties it all together. And just when you think you've wrapped your mind around it, the theories get even wilder, diving headfirst into the world of the paranormal. That's where we're heading next, and trust me, it only gets weirder. When logic fails, the imagination takes over, and the missing 411 cases practically beg for paranormal explanations. From alien abductions to interdimensional portals, the theories sound like something out of a late-night radio show. But are they? Consider the eerie silence that often precedes these disappearances. Some survivors report an overwhelming sense of dread, as though they're being watched by something unseen. Could it be UFOs scouting for their next target, cloaked in the shadows of the wilderness? Portals are another favorite theory, and honestly, they're hard to dismiss outright when you look at the evidence, or lack thereof. Eric Lewis' footprints stopping mid-climb or Dennis Martin disappearing in plain sight feels like they were pulled into another dimension. Cryptids like Bigfoot or Dogman also enter the conversation, with many sightings near these hotspots. Sure, skeptics laugh it off, but how do you explain search dogs refusing to track? It's almost as if these creatures, or forces, operate on a level beyond our senses. Let's not forget the whispers of witchcraft and the occult. In some areas, the missing cases overlap with regions tied to Native American legends of skinwalkers and wendigos. These entities are said to possess supernatural abilities, from shape-shifting to luring their victims with unearthly cries. Stephanie Stewart's disappearance near her remote fire lookout could easily fit these narratives. Was she a victim of something ancient and malevolent, hidden within the wilderness? If nothing else, the overlap of cultural folklore and modern vanishings feels too coincidental. Skeptics often point to natural explanations like disorientation or hypothermia-induced delirium, but these cases frequently defy those answers. Todd Geib's body, for instance, was found in a condition that didn't match the timeline of his disappearance. Similarly, Charles McCullers' remains posed questions no search and rescue manual could answer. If not the natural world, then what? Aliens, ghosts, or perhaps some uncharted force of nature? Theories of extraterrestrial involvement even suggest that UFOs are responsible for these unexplained events. As wild as these ideas seem, they fill the void left by the unsolvable. After all, when people vanish into thin air or reappear in impossible ways, conventional logic isn't enough. Paranormal theories may be speculative, but they force us to confront the possibility that our understanding of reality is incomplete. And if that thought doesn't send a chill down your spine, wait until you hear how critics and skeptics have tried to dismantle these ideas. That's where we're headed next. Skeptics, of course, have their own theories, and they're not shy about sharing them. Many point out that David Paulides tends to omit plausible explanations, focusing solely on the bizarre. To them, it's not aliens, portals, or cryptids. It's simpler stuff: hypothermia, animal attacks, or people just plain getting lost. And sure, it makes sense on paper. But then you dig into the details, like cases where tracks end abruptly or personal items are found in previously searched areas, and the usual answers feel incomplete. Critics argue that Paulides builds his case by cherry-picking data, ignoring the mundane while amplifying the mysterious. But even they admit the sheer volume of cases he's compiled is unsettling. Take the weather anomalies often cited in his research. Skeptics dismiss them as coincidental. Storms happen after all. But how many coincidences does it take before the pattern becomes impossible to ignore? When search teams consistently report sudden shifts in weather, even the staunchest doubters raise an eyebrow. Another favorite explanation? Cognitive bias. Skeptics say the eerie details, like unbuttoned jeans or search dogs losing the scent, stand out because we're looking for them. But can bias explain why seasoned outdoorsmen like Bart Schlayer disappear without leaving so much as a trail? Or why Stephanie Stewart's cabin showed no signs of struggle, no hints of where she went? For every rational explanation, there's a case that just won't fit the mold. Skeptics also love pointing to Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. They claim most vanishings boil down to human error or natural hazards. But what about the silence phenomenon? Or the cases involving bizarre recoveries, like Todd Geib's body being found in an area previously searched? These aren't scenarios you can shrug off with Occam's razor. They demand a deeper look, even if the answers veer into the paranormal. In the end, skeptics and believers often find themselves circling the same question. Why are so many of these cases unsolved? Sure, critics poke holes in the wilder theories, but even they struggle to dismiss the overarching mystery. And just when you think the skeptics have the upper hand, you hear reports of strange sensations in these parks, silences, whispers, and the unmistakable feeling of being stalked. Could the environment itself be part of the story? That's our next stop. If you've ever been deep in the woods, you know the natural soundtrack of the wild, birds chirping, leaves rustling, the occasional snap of a twig. But in many missing 411 cases, that comforting symphony abruptly stops. Witnesses often describe an eerie, almost oppressive silence before someone vanishes, as though the forest itself is holding its breath. It's unsettling to say the least. What could cause this strange hush? Natural predators? Maybe. But what about the sense of dread that follows, the feeling that something unseen is closing in? This phenomenon isn't just a random quirk, it's a recurring detail in countless accounts. Hikers have reported the silence as an almost physical presence, one that sets their nerves on edge. Some describe it as a bubble of stillness, as though they've stepped into another world entirely. Imagine walking through Yosemite, feeling the ground beneath your boots, only for the air to suddenly thicken with an unspoken warning. It's enough to make even the bravest adventurer freeze in their tracks. What's more, this silence is often accompanied by a sense of being watched, or worse, hunted. Survivors recount the inexplicable sensation of eyes on them, though no one is there. Could it be cryptids like Bigfoot or skinwalkers? Or something even stranger, like interdimensional entities observing from the shadows? Whatever the cause, the stories paint a picture of the wilderness as a living, sentient force, one that doesn't always welcome intrusions. Skeptics might argue this is just fear talking, the mind playing tricks in an unfamiliar environment. And sure, the wilderness can mess with your head. But when silence and dread coincide with vanishings, the line between paranoia and reality blurs. Search and rescue teams have even noted these odd silences during their missions, as though the forest itself knows more than it's letting on. That's not your everyday case of nerves, it's something deeper, something primal. The silence doesn't just end with the missing, it lingers in the aftermath. Families and investigators report an overwhelming sense of wrongness in these areas, as though the land is scarred by the event. And yet, people continue to explore, drawn by the beauty and mystery of these parks. But what happens when the mystery becomes tangible, when clues are found but don't make sense? That's where we're heading next, into the realm of unexpected endings. In the world of Missing 411, the phrase "case closed" rarely applies. When remains are found, they often create more questions than answers. Take Charles McCullough, for example. Years after his disappearance, searchers discovered his jeans eerily intact, perched upright as though he'd been vaporized where he sat. His boots were nearby, but his body? Nowhere to be found. How does one explain that? It's not just a grim find, it's a riddle that twists the knife of curiosity. And then there's Todd Geib, whose body was discovered in a lake weeks after he vanished. Despite the time lapse, his condition didn't align with what experts would expect from prolonged water exposure. Even stranger, his body surfaced in an area that had been searched multiple times before. It's these inconsistencies that elevate these cases from tragic accidents to enduring enigmas. How can a body move, or remain hidden, under such scrutiny? It's like the wilderness is playing tricks, teasing us with fragments of the truth. Personal items often add another layer of bafflement. In many cases, shoes are found neatly placed, as though the missing person had calmly removed them before vanishing. Bart Schleier's camp was untouched, his gear perfectly arranged as though he planned to return any second. Meanwhile, Stephanie Stewart's belongings were exactly where they should have been, except for her. These finds feel like breadcrumbs leading not to answers, but to more confusion. Search dogs, trained to follow the faintest trace of scent, sometimes act in ways that defy their training. In some cases, they refuse to follow a trail, sitting down as if to say, "It ends here." Other times, they seem disoriented, circling without direction. These animals don't get spooked easily, so what's causing their hesitation? Could it be that the missing person didn't simply walk away but was taken by something beyond the natural world? Even when the mystery appears solved, there's always an itch, a lingering what if. For every unexpected ending, a dozen threads remain loose, each tugging at the imagination. And yet, people keep returning to these parks, drawn by their beauty and danger. If you're planning your next wilderness adventure, it's worth asking, how can you prepare for the unknown? That's where we're headed next. Practical steps to enjoy the great outdoors while staying vigilant. Despite the unsettling mysteries, national parks remain breathtaking places to explore. But as David Paulide's research suggests, preparation isn't just a good idea, it might be your lifeline. The first rule? Never wander alone. Many missing 411 cases involve individuals who were isolated, even momentarily. Whether you're hiking Yellowstone or Yosemite, sticking with a group increases your odds of staying safe. Plus there's safety and fun in numbers. Who else is going to laugh at your terrible campfire jokes? Next, gear up like your life depends on it, because it might. Always carry the essentials: a map, compass, flashlight, extra batteries, and a first aid kit. And let's not forget the magic of modern tech. GPS devices and personal locator beacons can mean the difference between being found and becoming a headline. In many cases, like those involving sudden weather changes, technology could have provided critical lifelines. A little investment in tools now could save you from becoming part of the mystery. Clothing matters too. Dress for the unexpected even if the forecast looks friendly. Layers, waterproof gear, and sturdy boots are non-negotiables. And let's talk about shoes. If stories like Charles McCullers teach us anything, it's that you want your boots on at all times. As for snacks, pack more than you think you'll need. Energy bars, trail mix, and plenty of water can keep you going in an emergency. Hungry hikers aren't just cranky, they're vulnerable. Communication is another key to staying safe. Always tell someone your plans, where you're going, your route, and when you'll be back. A detailed itinerary could be the trail of breadcrumbs rescuers need to find you if something goes sideways. And while it's tempting to go off the beaten path for that perfect Instagram shot, resist the urge. Many disappearances start with a single step in the wrong direction. Stay on the trail, it's marked for a reason. Lastly, trust your instincts. If the woods go quiet or you feel that prickle of unease, pay attention. Turn back if you must. Your gut is often more tuned into danger than your conscious mind. The wilderness is a place of wonder, but it's also a realm of mystery, and being prepared can make all the difference. And now that we've covered safety, let's step back and explore why these stories captivate us so deeply, starting with an introduction that dives into the heart of the unknown. So, what do you make of these mysteries? Do you believe the answers lie in the natural world, or are we peering into something far more extraordinary? As we've seen, the disappearances in North America's national parks leave behind more than grief. They leave a haunting sense of the unknown. Whether it's strange silences, baffling patterns, or chilling remains, these stories invite us to question everything we thought we knew about the wilderness. But here's the real question: how will you prepare? Will you step into these breathtaking parks with more vigilance and respect for their untamed power? Or will you dismiss these tales, confident they couldn't happen to you? The truth is, awareness can make all the difference. Remember, it's not about living in fear, it's about being ready for the unexpected, because the woods have secrets and sometimes they whisper your name. Let these stories inspire you not only to explore but also to think critically. Could these disappearances be clues to something larger? Or are they reminders of our own limitations in the face of nature's vastness? Either way, the conversation doesn't end here. Dive deeper, question more, and keep the discussion alive. If this journey into the unknown has sparked your curiosity, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. There's so much more to uncover, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and maybe think twice before straying too far off the trail.